Okay, good. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Division 3 podcast, Calling the Audible. I am your host, Justin Blanchard. Looking fabulous. I think it would be an apt description.
Yellow is a good color on you.
I think it suits me really well.
It's a budget-friendly embarrassment.
It is indeed. I like it. Shout out Dollarama. GM, how are you doing with your non-uniform wearing
Simone just got here. His reaction made it priceless. I'm very well, actually. Thank you for asking.
Awesome.
I was just thinking, though, had we not had the headphones, like, we usually have our headphones on, and what would you have done with the hat if you had headphones underneath?
I don't know. I guess it's a good week.
This is a good time.
It's a good time to have technical difficulties with our sound.
Yeah.
But as long as you at home can hear us.
You guys are having technical difficulties with sound.
Everyone else is good?
I'm fine.
All right, that's fantastic then. So then with that, let's get this started. Recaps. The first one here. I need to freaking see what I'm doing here. Laval's finest beating Les Messieurs Shah 38-12.
An interesting drop.
Yes. Your first reactions to this game.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I know I said that already, but I don't know whether it was internal turmoil or it didn't quite work out. But the swap from Phil Cutler at quarterback to Justin Lavallee, equally great deep ball receiver. I think a solid piece that will work well with the Laval's finest core, and already off to a not so surprising victory.
Right. Yeah, Justin Lavallee here going 16 of 25 for 207 yards and 5 TDs, 0 interceptions in his first game as quarterback as Laval's finest decide to cut Phil Cutler early on. Rumor has it some difficulties were kind of going on in the huddle with Cutler. It just wasn't working. From what I gather,
styles don't always.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you kind of already touched upon it quickly, but is this? I mean, you clearly like the move. Is it a move that you think will be able to bring Laval's finest kind of to that next level? You know, are they higher up on that top 10, if you will, with Justin Lavallee?
Yes.
Okay.
And not to take away anything from Phil Cutler, but more for the fact that Justin Lavallee already has the chemistry with Jordan McLaren to begin with. The rest of the team are set up with the similar pieces and parts that he's usually successful with. Like, he's going to do well with Theo Bukelis. He's going to do well with Zach Zwir, and you can tell by the stat sheet already that it's
right.
These are players that Justin Lavallee can excel with. They're reliable. They've got that deep play capability, and he can still cut up short as he's used to. I really like how this team is built now, and they definitely move up that top 10 list with this.
Right. Someone who's having a bunch of difficulty in the quarterback position, that would be David Chantomo, who went 9 of 20, 107 yards, 2 TDs and 4 INTs in this one. Listen, he is currently leading Division 3 with 8 INTs and has a 44.4 QB rating. Is he to blame? Is the team to blame? Is it the offense as a whole? What is going on with this team?
I think it's the concept more than anything else. Like, it's not to take away from them, but it was a way for Les Messieurs Shah to stay in Division 3 with all the sort of roster and cap changes. They managed to fit in with David Chantomo at quarterback. I'm sure he'd be the one to tell you as well that he and Nick are not on the same level. So that switch does hurt them, but it's the best of the situation that keeps them in Division 3.
So then what's the fix here? Is there a fix? Do they bring in someone else, or do they just kind of try to work it out themselves?
I think they try and work it out themselves. That you have an excellent enough teacher and you have that chemistry already. I think it's more about just the fact that these are stronger defenses than David Chantomo was used to. I think that it's going to come with time, whether it's weeks or if it's even a season or 2 seasons. It will take time, but I don't think anything necessarily needs to change.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point. Moving on then to a much more exciting game, and one that we correctly thought would be an exciting game here. Broccasion dropping one 32-37 to Coyotes. Is this the way that you kind of saw it turning out here?
Very, very interesting. I think the lack of personnel also contributes to it a little bit more.
Yeah, just have to point out very quickly, Broccasion started this one with 5 men on both their first offensive drive and first defensive drive. Yet they still scored apparently relatively easy on that first drive.
So that tells you you're still not firing on all cylinders, and it's especially worse on defense because it becomes how quickly the opposition can march down the field, not if they will.
Right.
That being said, because the skill level in Division 3 is on par.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Remove a defender from that equation and it becomes exploitable.
Yeah, so Broccasion not playing with Marco here, and I mean, I guess are we to assume that he was just kind of subbing in for that first game? Do we expect to see him back?
I would expect to see him back. I think that it might have just been he being unable to be there for that time. I'm sure this is something that's confirmable by us for
something interesting that I noticed for Broccasion here. Dylan Taylor is in fact the current leading receiver on the team in catches, yards, and TDs. Is that good or bad?
Oh, that's good. I don't see why it would be a negative.
Well, okay, then let me kind of mention something else here. Then Kyle Lebowski, absent. Where has he been? Where is he on the stat sheet?
Look, if Kyle Lebowski is running downfield and pulling 2 defenders with him, and then you've got those passes open to Dylan Taylor in those sort of crossing routes and those outs and ins, I'd take that every time. I'm sure Kyle would tell you to take that every time too. It's not necessarily just about that big play, but more about the big picture.
Okay, so you don't see anything wrong with Dylan leading. You think that's it? That's okay. That this offense can still. I
think that this offense is still sustainable. Christian does like to spread the ball around. We'll see that more and more as the season progresses, but this was a close game. They were 5. They're missing their biggest acquisition and a solid contributor to this offense. I think that the fact that this was still a 1-score game is not really cause for concern.
Right. And on the other side here, Coyotes, Kevin Smutta going 8 of 103 for 3 TDs in the catches, yards, and TDs department. A big, really second half from him, kind of getting up there and making some plays. Sammy Theater really spread the ball around amongst all of his receivers. Is it, in your opinion, too early then to kind of get on the Coyotes bandwagon here?
I think it's too late. I was on it last week. We mentioned the addition of Sean Steen. That's absolutely huge, and it brings them into that next tier of teams in Division 3. They were the leading team in Division C last spring.
And with the addition of Kevin Smuda for that roster, that made a gigantic change to their entire composition.
So their depth just continues to improve. They're going score for score with teams in Division 3 now. They match up with pretty much anyone. They're a scary team, and they were ever since we found out that addition bolstered their already strong roster.
Right. Weak rosters. Darksiders dropping one here, 30-18 to Show Me Your TDs.
So you called it.
I said would happen. Show Me Your TDs. It's funny. I think
I was wrong twice last week.
Yeah. I mean, listen. It's okay. It'll happen, GM.
And we'll live it up a little bit more.
Yeah,
later
exactly. But Pease told me, kind of before the game, he said, listen, we have 4 plays on offense, so we'll score on those 4. And that'll pretty much be it. They didn't even get those 4 scores, right? So they only got 3 TDs. Show me your TDs. Mike was really on point here in this game.
It's all about rubbing that ball in the dirt.
That's it, right? Exactly, that new ball there. Very quickly, how surprised are you by this result?
So I like to think that maybe Darksiders had the matchups that they could have exploited with Show Me Your TDs, but you pegged it perfectly in your preview. Said it best, is that they knew what works and what doesn't for Fred Morissette, and they took it away. Show Me Your TDs did exactly what they should have done, and they did it really well. I was wrong, but I'm not surprised. So very, very solid outing from them. And I guess my surprise comes from them just stepping up their game and doing better than expected.
Right. It should be mentioned for Darksiders, who are missing J Flo with an injury, right? Mm-hmm. With I don't know if is it a hammy that he has? Anyone know? Whatever it is, apparently very severe injury that J Flo's got.
A broken heart.
All right, Eagle. Thank you for that. And then the last one here, Simon Dagenet, thank you for being present as we go over very quickly his 33-13 loss to Mongoose. Another great prediction by yours truly. I said he would crash and burn, and he did with 5 interceptions. Is this more Mongoose, or is this more lightweight, Simon Dagenet kind of sucking it up here?
Well, I guess it could be both. You still need to be good enough to intercept those passes. You still need to make those reads and do it. We talked about Lightweight's defense sort of carrying them through their schedule, and that's doable for this defense so long as the offense doesn't throw 5 interceptions.
Right. Yeah,
the defense still came to town, but when you're on the field for 3/4 of the game, it's tough. It's really tough.
Definitely. So, I mean, are you still kind of confident here for Lightweight going forward? Is this just really one of those games for them that...
I think this is going to be one of those seasons for them where they will only go as far as Simon can lead them. They're a great defense, and they can do a lot with what's given to them. It's just a matter of that offense performing.
Right. Okay, so then with that, we will move then right along to our next segment, Eagle Thinks. And if you're joining us really for the first time here, very simple concept. GM and I will bet on what Eagle thinks the answer to a question is, an FPX-related question. Doesn't matter if Eagle's answer is the right answer or not. All that matters is one of us will get the right answer, or at least close to the right answer. And one of us will
dress up like that next week.
And one of us will wear some very ridiculous outfit next week, which will hopefully be GM. Eagle, you ready?
I am ready.
Just before we start, my question is, do you think you'll get it right this time, or are you going to be shooting for ridiculous?
I think that's part of the game, isn't it?
All right. Okay, listen, I'm not going to give anything away from
He doesn't like being wrong.
Oh,
Look
listen,
at him.
I definitely do not like being
I
wrong.
think you're going to be very wrong with this one. Here's the question, okay? So remember, I'm going to tell you the question. Keep it to yourself, your answer. Here we go. Eagle, what do you think is the number of teams in Division 3 with a total of 63 points against or less so far this season?
63 points or
63,
less
yes, exactly.
against.
Right,
So 3 games.
Yeah, so that's 21 points per game, right, is what it is. So how many teams do you think have 21 points per game against or less?
And remind me how many teams again in the division?
26.
26, thank you.
26. Okay. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
All right, GM, since I started the last 2 rounds of betting last 2 weeks, why don't you start us off here?
Okay, so I pick a number.
Yeah, pick whatever, as low as you want, high as you want. Go for it.
I will take 4 and over.
I'll take 5.
I'll take 8 and over.
Done. Call you. So if Eagle's answer is 8 or over, GM wins. If it's 7 or less, I win. Eagle, your answer.
6.
Yeah, there you go.
Why can't you
Thank
be
you.
right?
Thank you. No.
What is the answer?
You know why?
10.
It's 10.
Are you kidding me?
10 freaking teams who averaging 21 points per game or fewer.
I don't understand that, because we've talked about games, and every game we talk about is extremely close and around, the 25, 30 point range and everything.
Granted, it is much easier to talk about close games than it is to talk about blowouts.
Exactly.
And it's something we try to avoid.
But listen, it's really something. Listen, I was completely surprised, but I had to recount it like 3 times to make sure I actually got that right. So it kind of led me to think here. So Jen will wear something absolutely ridiculous next week. We'll figure that out. But more on topic here. I saw those 10 teams, and my immediate thought was there is no way that all 10 teams are actually as good as what that stat says that they are. I figured some of those have to be the real deal, and others overachievers, if you will. So what we'll do here, kind of very quickly in a more rapid fire kind of way here, is we'll sandwich them in. So I'll have GM start us off here by telling us.
We have a name for this segment too, by the way.
What'd I name it? I don't remember.
GM and Justin make a sandwich.
That's what I named it. There you go. Yeah, man, sandwich time. So that's it. So basically, we'll kind of give our teams that we think are either the real deal, both offense and defense, or overachieving here a bit so far into the season. So GM. Your real deal defense.
My real deal defense is the Brotherhood. They have the athleticism, they have the depth, they can match up with pretty much any team in the division defensively. They'll come out on top. They're high flying. They can do a number of coverages, and they rotate very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely agree with you on that. I mean, a big thing on defense, especially in FPF, is to have size and speed, and they have that down pat. One of the best in that department, all the way from Jamal Gins, Kevin Kai, Theo J is an amazing player. We can freaking go on for days about Theo. But they work well together. You can really see that. They talk. And what's good, obviously, about that athleticism is that you can play any kind of defense you want, man, zone. They can do it all. I definitely think that
They shoot very well. You have guys like Khalil, Kwesi, Brandon Kyler as well, who just see routes, jump them, and do it successfully.
Definitely. So my no-deal defense, the defense that I think is overachieving a bit here so far, or not as good as what the stats show, is 2.5 Dans. Yes, I'm calling out 2.5 Dans despite their 57 points against, and here's why. Number one, they beat a Serge Pilon-less Red Raiders. Okay? They beat them, what do we have here? 38-20, okay? Nope. Dysfunctional Buddies team that they beat 33-6. Not impressive. And then they gave up 31 points to us, which objectively should have been, I'd say, at least 1 or 2 scores more. We had a ton of drops in that week 1 game. They easily could have been 40-plus points for us. Agree or disagree? Go for it, man.
I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I guess if there has to be a team, they are better than this. But that being said, they're still coming out with these wins, so it's hard to.
No, definitely. It's more just a matter of I haven't seen really so far kind of them really kind of getting tested, if you will, a really strong test, and really kind of coming out ahead of that test properly.
I'm thinking about it more, and I'm disagreeing with you just a little bit.
Okay.
I think that the Dans are more about sort of slowing down the pace of the game and controlling it and playing their brand of football no matter what. And I think that necessarily also it cuts the clock. It leaves for less big plays on defense because your opposition also have less opportunities on offense. So it might also be that the stats don't show everything.
Fair point. Your no-deal defense.
My no-deal defense is FOE right now. I think that team is a little bit more offensively stacked and offensively based. This team is going to march down the field, score. Alex is going to take what the defenses give him, and they just put up a lot of points. So your plus-minus is also going to be skewed if you have an offense that's putting up a ton of points and scores without difficulty.
Yeah, no, those are fair points. I'll probably lean towards agreeing with you here a little bit. They have 76 points against so far. I guess, how can I say this? They're playing about the way that I would kind of expect them to play, so that's probably a bit why I wouldn't go full on in your camp here. I mean, it seems to me that this is more or less what I expected from them here so far. And
I guess this is the nature of the exercise as well, is that when you're picking teams that have such a high plus minus and you're trying to find very little fault in teams that have very little fault to begin with.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is still, there's a lot of athleticism on this defense. But again, I'd also like to see them really get a proper test here to really kind of gauge properly where they're at. 47-33 to Les Buddies to me is kind of surprising a little bit, given how much the Buddies have struggled since that week 1 game. And again, Red Raiders without Serge Pilon, they're not going to move the ball really that much. And lastly, OTF. Well, I'll get back to them a bit later on in the show, but not particularly surprising, if you will, with how that game turned out, 26-19. My real deal defense, we talked about them earlier, is lightweight. Listen, a couple notes here. All right, they picked Lever off week 1 4 times. That is the most he's been intercepted since May 5th of 2016. That was week 1 of the last spring season. Listen to me. They got fourth down stop after fourth down stop versus Heisman's. And obviously, listen, granted, they gave up 30-plus points to Mongoose, but that is completely skewed by the fact that Simon Dagenet likes to throw a bunch of interceptions.
Hey, smile for the people.
No one can see him. Listen, you go down the list of these players. François Raymond, top 3 safety, in my opinion. This dude covers ground like it's nobody's business. Corey Kennedy, I think, is atop the underrated list of defenders. I think Simon would also agree with that.
He had a big spring 2016.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
I think his breakout season.
Yeah, he's been solid. And Francesco Spanti was not a very well-known player. He's one I played with on Lobster Dinner a few seasons back. This kid is quick. He's aggressive.
Is he playing CIS this year, or is he still in CEGEP?
I don't know if he is. I knew that he was at CEGEP recently for the Nomad de Montmorency. That kid is an amazing athletic player. And Eddie Lee, who apparently has no regard for his body, throws it around, left or right on the field. It's good to have a guy like that on your defense. Agree or disagree with them?
I agree. I think we talked about it earlier, how good this defense was and whether Simon could or could not carry this team. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think that the defense itself will be enough to make up for his faults, but in itself,
yeah,
that is one solid
absolutely.
group of defenders right there. Moving right along then to your real deal offense.
My real deal offense is 6+ R.
Flattering.
You probably won't bring them up because they're your team.
Indeed.
But Fred Vien is the record holder for highest completion percentage in FPF for a reason. I think right now he's throwing at like 73 or 74% efficiency.
Something like that.
Yeah, when 3 of every 4 of your passes are completions consistently, and you're facing top tier teams, there's no better. You don't struggle. You score at ease. There's no better.
You can drive the field 4 yards at a time.
You can, if that.
Definitely. Yeah, all good points. I definitely, have to give him credit. He's been amazing this season, and that's despite us having a ton of drops so far through 3 weeks. Despite that, his completion percentage is still as high as it is. Yeah, I'll say we're good offense, and I'll kind of leave it at that. And then I will move on then to my no-deal offense. I'm going to say the Brotherhood here for 2 reasons. One, I'm not playing them this season, so I can permit myself to say this. And 2, here are
Wait, I left. Do I play
my
them?
kind of reasons here. Hold up here. So, Brotherhood so far, listen. 44-13 over Darksiders, 46-25 over Prestige Worldwide, 39-7 over the Heismans. To me, this argument, why I'm saying this really, is just because that's what I would expect from them. I would expect more, if anything, versus these teams that they've played, given how talented that they are. Here's why. They beat
For those of you just listening to this, I'm giving Justin a frowny face.
Hold on. They beat a Darksiders team that had no Jamil and no J-Flow. Prestige Worldwide that had no Carl Denai, who they seem to have added, who really makes a difference on that team.
Carl Denai, absolutely.
And then listen, they scored 39 points on a Heisman defense that gave up 37 to Simon the week earlier. All right. So all I'm saying here is that I can't say that there's anything particularly impressive defensively so far from this team, given who they've played. That's all I have to say about it. I'm assuming you'll disagree. And
yeah.
What are your reasons?
Last winter, same core, pretty much same roster, almost exactly. Division 3, they went 9-1.
Definitely. Listen, granted, but looking back at last season, their average was a lot lower than what it is right now. Right now, they're averaging it's over 40 points a game. I don't think that will necessarily hold up against better defenses like Lightweight coming up this week. I think that'll be a very good test to see how good this offense really is versus teams that are more to their level, if you will, and at full strength. Okay, because listen to me, if J-Flow's there, if Jamil's there for Darksiders, I don't think that they put up 44. Okay.
That is admittedly a different game.
So that's kind of where I'm kind of going with this in terms of their offense. You're a no-deal offense.
My no-deal offense is 8 boys, 1 cup. I don't even think that it's necessarily meant as a derogatory. Jesse Dupuis is playing in Division 3 and Division 4B. And I think that the sort of risks he takes and the mistakes he makes in 3 allow him to excel even that much more in 4B. It looks like he's taking those chances. He's making those questionable plays every so often that sometimes work, sometimes don't. But I feel like this is as a learning curve for Jesse Dupuis, even though it means that the offense is sort of in pretender status right now because it's the defense that seems to be carrying them a little bit more than the offense.
Right.
He's learning from this. He's bringing it down to 4B with him, and they're still excelling at the same time in Division 3. So even though they're not at the same level as some of the other offenses in 3, they're still doing exceptionally.
Here's why I'll disagree very quickly. 78 points for so far isn't that impressive. If it's a no-deal offense, the way I see it, it should be someone that's kind of overachieving, and to me, they're playing, again, exactly the way that I really expect them to. This is not an offense that's doing that well. They're doing okay. You know what I mean? So they're not necessarily playing above expectations, if you will, from in that sense. And very lastly here, then, the Coyotes offense is my real deal offense, which we talked about also a bit earlier. Listen, this offense is insane for multiple reasons. One, they can go slow as easily as they can go fast. They can really, march down the field. They can take their deep shots, and there's just so much talent, and there are so many different ways that they can beat you. From the speed of someone like AJ Rashkovan, the size of someone like Kevin Smuda. There are so many different ways that they can attack a defense, and that to me is a very scary thing as a defender.
Of all the picks you've made, I think I agree with this one the most. The way the Coyotes are structured, even pre-Sean Steen, by the way, even when they were back in Division C, the Coyotes are structured in such a way that they're all relatively on the same level. So there's no 5 defenders in Division 3 that can match up 5 for 5 with each of their receivers. And what happens then is Sammy Feeder finds the weak link, and he exploits it. That's really what the Coyotes offense is all about. They're very reactionary.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
When they're reacting to all the defenses and they're still putting up numbers regardless of who they play, that's
the sign of a solid offense.
Yeah.
They don't depend on one single guy to make plays. Yep. They can really do it all. Igor, you want to jump in here?
This is the biggest sandwich I've ever eaten.
This is what?
The biggest sandwich I've ever eaten.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it is.
Because there's a lot of content, right?
Yes. It's okay. It's all right. It's done now. We've completed it. You may now consume
we can bypass predictions for this.
Well, listen,
everyone knows they're going to win.
We still have 5 minutes here.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Right, moving on to picks of the week.
Yeah.
So Bearskins versus Top Sauce. GM is irrelevant in this conversation. Eagle, your pick and why?
Top Sauce. I just think they're a better team. I mean, Bearskins are good, but I find their talented is very compartmentalized in just a few players. Marco Bertoldi being the one that's coming to the top of my head right now. Otherwise, Top Sauce is pretty much stacked across the board in terms of the way I look at it.
Here's why you're wrong. Vince Nardone struggling, going through a bit of a slump here. Top Sauce, 22 points and 18 points in back-to-back weeks. I think it continues. Bearskins all the way. Moving on to the next game, FOE versus 2.5 Dans. Your pick and why?
For someone who was a big proponent of strong schedules and shitty schedules.
Nope, irrelevant this week. Irrelevant.
Granted.
Go.
What was the
FOE
EQ?
and 2.5 Dans.
This is a fun one.
That would be crazy. Yeah.
This is going to be very, very gritty. It's going to be a fight for every inch. Whichever team sort of reacts better to this one. I think that the Dans are going to chip away and come out of this one ahead. I think that they're going to get under the skin of FOE. They're going to play to the weaknesses and the insecurities, and that's what's going to lose the game for FOE.
Yeah, you literally said everything I wanted to say. That is pretty much it on the
Next.
nose. Yeah, moving on. 8 Boys, 1 Cup versus Broccasion.
If Marco's there, Broccasion have it. I think that the depth and the strength of Broccasion, the chemistry there, as I mentioned, Jesse GP is still in a learning type role in Division 3 compared to Division 4B, and you think that they're a pretender. So,
yep, definitely. I mean, if Broccasion play the way that they're supposed to, if Marco shows up, I think it's kind of a slam dunk here for them. Otherwise, I like to give 8 Boys 1 Cup a chance here. Their defense wasn't that spectacular, I thought, Marco.
That's a fun matchup, by the way. Marco Masiotra and Mathieu Houle.
Oh, yeah, that if that ends up being it, that'll be very interesting to see. Size and speed is always fun. Moving on then to end here, Eagle, our quick final thoughts. GM, any? Do you have any?
You're going to me first because he wasn't ready, right?
That is correct.
No, I do not have any final thoughts other than go to Eagle first so I can make something up.
Yeah, listen. Eagle, any final thoughts?
That was very abrupt even for me. I was like, wait a minute, I thought there's more picks coming up.
Nope, only 3 picks. Eagle here being...
Unlike Simon Dagenet.
Hey!
I'm sorry, I'm rarely the one who does it.
I'll end here then. A couple shout outs. First of all, shout out to Jonesers for kind of shocking the FPF world and GM.
Yeah, I was
and getting that big win over Prestige Worldwide. I score kept that game a very fun game. Yes, Eagle.
Shout out to Dollarama for dressing
Shout out
Justin.
to Dollarama. This is coming off the second.
Shout out to our sponsor, Sportira.
And obviously Sportira as well, but Dollarama too. And lastly here, listen, the Meshesha brothers on OTF, played them for the first time this past week. Had no idea who they were. These kids do not get enough recognition in this league. I did a Google search of these brothers, man. 6 results. That is criminal for these guys. they should be talked about way more in this league. Crazy athletes, man. Crazy receivers, DBs, everything. Awesome dudes. And with that, this is now coming off. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
More